Cheers and welcome to Bitter Reality Brewing. Yes, forced fermentation. Why? How? What is it? On a professional level, I know most breweries probably know what a forced fermentation is, or at least I hope they do. For home brewers, most of you probably don't know what a forced fermentation is or what the benefit would be, how to do it, and why you would do it. Don't forget, like, subscribe, keep sharing. Definitely appreciate the sharing. We're going to answer those questions. First of all, why? Why would you do a forced fermentation? Well, think about it in this way. You have a 5-gallon batch of beer, and let's say you have a little micro batch of maybe 16 ounces. We're going to find out by forcing that fermentation to just go crazy and get us a final gravity within maybe just under 2 days to maybe 3 days. And that way we'll know what to expect with our main batch of beer and understand where the final gravity should finish. If it doesn't finish, then we know that there's a problem and we can troubleshoot that problem. If both of them are hitting the final gravity and it's not the final gravity that you're expecting, then there's another problem and we can look at that and try to troubleshoot that and figure that out. So first, I'm going to go into the easier piece of, let's say, both the forced fermentation and your actual wort going into beer hit the same final gravity, but it's not low enough. It's not what you expected it to be. Could be a problem with your yeast viability, could be mash temps, could be timing of your mashes, conversion, mash thermometer. It could be a multitude of reasons, but this now helps you say, okay, it's not my fermentation. It's something before I get into fermentation that's causing this. Let me troubleshoot it. But let's assume that you're getting a final gravity of 1.012 on your forced fermentation, and over here on your main batch, you're getting a 1.014. Well, that right there tells you that either your pitching rate was off, the viability of the yeast was off, aeration of the wort, you didn't have optimal fermentation temperatures, or you had some temperature fluctuation. We've talked about that. Maybe there wasn't enough yeast nutrient within the wort, or you didn't add a little just to kind of give it a little kick. So those are things that you can try to troubleshoot, figure that out, and get the best final gravity and get the best attenuation out of the yeast you're using. So let's jump into how do we do a forced fermentation. I'm going to assume you're doing a 5-gallon batch, or for everybody outside of the US, let's say about 19 liters. And you're going to take about a half a liter, 500 milliliters, or for the US equivalent, about 2 cups of that wort. I actually do something like that now where I don't do the forced fermentation, but I set a lot of my brew goals for 5 1/8 of a gallon. It sounds weird, instead of 5 1/4 like most people. I have found that I lose about 1/8 with everything going on before I move it to the keg. And if I lose a little more, it's not a big deal, as long as I'm under that 5-gallon mark for a 5-gallon keg. So assuming you brew 5.125 of a gallon, or you do 19 liters with 500 extra milliliters, you'll take that extra wort and you'll add either a half a gram of dry yeast or 5 milliliters of liquid yeast. If you know your yeast is extremely viable, the pitching rate's great, you can actually take it after you pitch. Just make sure it's aseptic or as close to sterile as possible when you pull it so you don't contaminate your main batch. Honestly, I don't care so much if you have a itty bitty bitty contamination to the forced fermentation. By the time it causes a problem, it'll be too late, and who cares? We're not drinking that. That's just for testing. But for your main batch, yeah, as aseptic or as sterile as possible. Spray the Star San. It's going to help sanitize. It's not sterile, but it's going to get things clean, hopefully keep things clean and protect that wort. What you're going to do then is you're going to use a stir plate. If you don't have a stir plate, I'll put a link somewhere up here to the ones I made. And also you can go check out my Amazon store. I'll leave a description below. There's one you can just buy pre-built, or you can buy the little parts and build a dual system for not much more than buying a single unit. And I know mine have been going for too many years. So, and they're cardboard, but they just last. So very inexpensive to build a stir plate, almost as inexpensive to just buy one. You're gonna take that, you're gonna put the yeast in there, and you're gonna put that on your stir plate, okay? And you're gonna wanna add some heat to that. You wanna keep it up between 76 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit on that stir plate. Yes, I forgot the Celsius, so I'll put that up there somewhere. But very simple. Don't buy those expensive stir plates unless you can afford them to have the heat built in. Those are really expensive. I use one of these, and I can put it on up to 4 stir plates at a time, and it's got my dial. So, and that's 4 of mine that I built. I have 8 total, but yeah. Works beautiful, it's inexpensive, you turn it up, it kicks the degrees up a few, solves a huge problem when you need just a little bit of heat added to it. But yeah, you want to get it up around 76, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I know you're thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna get off flavors. This is the little starter you're doing. You're not gonna drink it. You're just gonna measure the final gravity. So get that thing going, and within 2 to 3 days, you should be done. It should be, I'm done. You can take it, you can use your Anton Paar if you have one, which I'll leave a link for that below too. If not, you can use your hydrometer, whatever you need, pour it in, check it, see what your final gravity is. When your beer is finally done, your main batch, then you can compare and see if it's the same final gravity. If it is, rock on. If it isn't, step back, figure out what went wrong. I'm gonna put my money, if I had to bet, on fluctuating temperatures during fermentation. It seems to be the most common problem I had in the past, and it's probably the most common problem for most people. It could also be yeast nutrient, or it could have been something like you didn't aerate the wort, or there are other possibilities, but it helps you to troubleshoot and figure out what it is. Thank you again for joining us here at Bitter Reality Brewing. Don't forget, like, subscribe, keep sharing, definitely appreciate it. Cheers.